Beyond happiness and unhappiness, there is peace. The higher good behind good and bad. Is there a difference between happiness and inner peace? Yes, happiness depends on conditions being perceived as positive. Inner peace does not. Is it not possible to attract only positive conditions into our life? If our attitude and our thinking are always positive, we would manifest only positive events and situations, wouldn't we? Do you truly know what is positive and what is negative? Do you have a total picture? There have been many people for whom limitations, failures, loss, illness, or pain in whatever form turned out to be their greatest teacher. It taught them to let go of false self-image and superficial ego-dictated goals and desires. It gives them depth, humility, and compassion. It made them more real. Whatever anything negative happens to you, there is a deep lesson concealed within it. Although you may not see it at the time, even a brief illness or an accident can show you what is real and unreal in your life, what ultimately matters and what doesn't. Seen from a higher perspective, conditions are always positive. To be more precious, there are neither positive nor negative. They are as they are. And when you live in complete acceptance of what is, which is the only same way to live, there's no good or bad in your life anymore. There's only a higher good, which includes the bad. Seen from the perspective of the mind, however, there is good, bad, dislike, like, love, hate. Hence, in the book of Genesis, it is said that Adam and Eve were no longer allowed to dwell in paradise when they ate of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. This sounds to me like denial and self-deception. When something dreadful happens to me or someone close to me, accident, illness, pain of some kind or death, I can pretend that it isn't bad, but the fact remains that it's bad. So why deny it? You are not pretending anything. You are allowing it to be as it is. That's all. This allowing to be takes you beyond the mind with its resistance pattern that creates positive negative polarities. It is an essential aspect of forgiveness. Forgiveness of present is even more important than forgiveness of the past. If you forgive every moment, allow it to be as it is, then there will be no accumulation of resentment that needs to be forgiven for any sometime later. Remember that we're not talking about happiness here. For example, when a loved one has just died or you feel your own death approaching, you cannot be happy. It is impossible. But you can be at peace. There may be sadness and tears, but provides that you have relinquished resistance. Underneath the sadness, you will feel a deep serenity, a stillness, a sacred presence. This is emanation of being. The inner peace, the good has no opposite. What if it is a situation that I can do something about? How can I allow it to be and change it at the same time? Do what you have to do. In the meantime, accept what is. Since mind and resistance are synonymous, acceptance immediately frees you from mind dominance and thus reconnects you with being. As a result, the usual ego motivation for doing, fear, greed, control, defending, or feeding the first sense of self will cease to operate. An intelligence much greater than the mind is now in charge, and so a different quality of consciousness will flow into your doing. Accept whatever comes to you, woven in the pattern of your destiny, for what could more aptly fit your needs. This is written 2,000 years ago by Marcus Aurelius, one of those exceedingly rare humans who possessed worldly power as well as wisdom. It seems that most people need to experience a great deal of suffering before they will relinquish resistance and accept, before they will forgive. As soon as they do, one of the greatest miracles happens, the awakening of being conscious through what appears as evil, the transmutation of suffering into inner peace. The ultimate effect of what evil and suffering endured is that it will force humans into realizing what they are beyond name and form. Thus, what we perceive as evil from our limited perception is actually part of a higher good and has no opposite. This, however, does not become true for you except through forgiveness. Until that happens, evil has not been redeemed and therefore remains evil. Through forgiveness, which essentially remains recognizing the instabilities of the past and allowing the present moment to be as it is, the miracle of transformation happens not only within but also without. A silent space of intense presence arises both in you and around you. Whoever, whatever enter that field of consciousness will be affected by it, sometimes visibly and immediately, sometimes at deeper level with visible changes appearing at the later time. You deserve discord, heal pain, dispel unconsciousness without doing anything, simply by being and holding the frequency of intense presence. The end of your life drama is that state of acceptance and inner peace, even though you may not call it bad, and anything still come into your life that would be called bad from a perspective of ordinary consciousness. Most of the so-called bad things that happen in people's lives are due to unconsciousness. They are self-created, or rather ego-created. I sometimes refer to those things as drama. When you're fully conscious, drama does not come into your life anymore. Let me remind you briefly how the ego operates and how it creates drama. Ego is unobserved mind that runs your life when you are not present. As witnessing consciousness, the watcher, the ego perceives itself as a separate fragment in a hostile universe with no real inner connection to any other being, surrounded by other egos, which is either seen as a potential threat or which it will attempt to use for its own ends. The basic ego patterns are designed to combat its own deep-seated fear and the sense of lack. They are resistance, control, power, greed, defense, attack. Some of the ego's strategies are extremely clever, yet you never truly solve any of its problems, simply because the ego itself is the problem. When egos come together, whether a personal relationship or in organizations or institutions, bad things happen sooner or later. Drama of one kind and another, in the form of conflict, problems, power struggles, emotional or physical violence, and so on. This includes collective evils such as a war, genocide, and exploitation.